Tailgate. And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Danny Kanell. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 Tailgate, where Ohio State fans are like, why? Why are they making it all about themselves again? Because among the things we have to get into today is some new information regarding the ongoing battle between Michigan and the NCAA, tied to the notice of allegations, the potential, the alleged violations from the NCAA to Michigan regarding the sign stealing scandal. We also have the 2025 ACC schedule ready to go. A little bit more movement on the assistant coaching carousel, and a word from you as well. And the thing that is so much fun about this, now I want to get to this eventually. There's Michigan versus the NCAA. But Tom, there's also Brett Bielema. Like, I mean,
yeah, there is.
Like, I mean, this is like, well, again, serious stuff in a little bit, but we love it, right? I mean, Bert he's calling up old Jim Harbaugh clips. He is going after the Michigan story on social media with some DK approved relentlessness, you know, like I got to think there's almost drafts in there. What do we make of Bert going after the Wolverines? A rivalry that you pointed to us in this season is a kind of a rivalry that means a lot to him as well.
Let's see. Nope, Michigan's not on the 2025 schedule. Keep going, Brett. Just keep piling on them. Keep going after them. We've won the last meeting with them. We're on a winning streak against those cheating-ass Wolverines, who we would have a 2-game winning streak against them if it wasn't for those cheating-ass refs in Ann Arbor a couple of years ago. Yeah, listen, Brett's never been shy on Twitter. Him and Lane, they do not shy away from saying what they think on social media. It's pretty clear that Brett is he's having fun with a conference rival, and he's letting him know how he feels about it. I can't say that he and I see completely eye to eye on this one, but I do enjoy
whether it should be something that should be made into such a big deal.
But I do enjoy it.
Yeah,
I love it. I am all here for it. So somebody put in there, is he the Big Ten's version of Lane Kiffin? And I do think there's some truth in that. But you know what he is? He's way more direct. Like, Lane will come a little bit more like with the meme that's kind of like, ooh, is he really saying this? And I love about Brett is he just called him out. He's like, this is why you ran to the NFL. Like, he doesn't hide anything. There's no meme. It's just, it is what it is. Like when he called out Pate about that, he's like, come on. It's like, what he calls out things directly, which I am a fan of for sure.
Do you know the meme where it's like, I think it's a meme for girls, and they're like, when your boyfriend gets in on the gossip and like it looks like it's going great, and then he just spouts out like, and she's ugly, right? And they're like, whoa, out of nowhere. That's Bielema just says the damn thing. And they're like, yeah,
no. Hey, listen, no tact. It's all gas. It's no brakes.
Yeah.
We love it. He is quite the character, and certainly enjoying a lot of success on the recruiting trail, enjoying the wake of a 10-win season. As Tom mentioned, not having Michigan on the schedule probably helps there, as well as having their winning ways. Okay, so into the story itself. Yahoo Sports got its hands on the 137-page response from the University of Michigan to the NCAA regarding those allegations, of which there are many level 1 charges, the most serious violations that you can have in the NCAA bylaws, the show cause for Jim Harbaugh, numerous penalties for the university and for the football program in relation to the alleged sign stealing operation spearheaded by Connor Stallions. There are a couple of sort of big ways that I viewed this. Curious about you too. Number one, they're trying to say that it didn't help us that much, which for Michigan fans was always sort of a part of the conversation as they went on their way to a 15-0 season national championship. Number two, that the details of the operation, indicated things that they could not necessarily tie to Connor Stallions specifically quite as much. They are asking for a lot of the level 1s to be dropped to level 2s. That kind of feels like you're talking down speeding tickets in the courtroom with your lawyer. Again, we've got our own attorney here who can weigh in on that. But then there's also this last piece that the call came from inside the house.
Oh,
it's juicy, right?
There's a rat. That one hurts, I think, a lot.
I mean, they're big on their family. One of our own going to go out there. Danny, as we start to pull this apart, what were some of your takeaways from what we learned from Ross Dellinger's reporting over at Yahoo Sports, and sort of illuminating to me, telling us what Michigan's position is for what is not a legal fight, but takes the vibe of a legal battle in the enforcement, not the courtroom, but the enforcement room between the NCAA and Michigan.
This feels like the tell-all with Andy when the Real Housewives all come together at the end, and like the whole season's in the can, and now you're rehashing everything, and they just like somebody's about to fly over a couch with a flying leg kick of another one. Like, we already kind of know what's transpired. We've got all the juice out of it. It's like, can we squeeze a little bit more? And I think Ohio State fans are like, see, we told you it wasn't anybody else. It wasn't Ryan Day. It wasn't his brother. It wasn't anybody that was, had to do with us. Michigan is still saying, see, this was not a big deal. You guys are just coming for us, trying to make us a scapegoat and punish us. I'm here for all of it because I'll watch the final. I'll watch the finale. I'll come do it. I still think it was a big deal, but like, do I care that much? Do I want them to strip wins? No, I'm kind of over it. I think everybody's kind of over it, which is except for Ohio State and Michigan fans. I think the rest of us have kind of moved on.
Okay, all right. So this is what they're doing. They are calling the NCAA's bluff on the NCAA's power. That is the way. That's the way that you attack the NCAA. You lawyer up. You try to talk your way down. You continue to just go on the offensive, go on the aggressive. Anybody who has laid down to NCAA violations has then seen a case right behind them where they fought it and got out on a technicality. And they're like, why in the world did we self-impose this bowl ban or this postseason ban? I mean, this is Michigan continuing to take the approach that the NCAA cannot enforce, its rules with any kind of strength. And so, why are we going to lay down, even if Jim Harbaugh is gone, even if Jesse Minter's gone, even if so many of these other individuals that might be tied to this are never going to coach at Michigan again? To me, I read the response and I was like, okay, so you're just going to give them a heat check on every single one of the, we are going to nitpick every single one of these allegations. We are going to try to turn down the temperature on every single one of these allegations. And, as we continue to have that larger conversation about the NCAA and what exactly is it that you do here? That kind of conversation. To me, I look at Michigan and I see another instance of a well-funded, high-powered athletic department that's like, how about hell no? What do you think about that? And we'll see how it plays out.
I mean, if you look at recent results, how the hell can you not want to go to court with the NCAA right now? They're getting blown out every single time they step in a courtroom. So of course you're going to go. I mean, part of the problem that the NCAA faces is that it's not an actual legal body. It has no subpoena power. It can find these violations, but unless somebody just comes and tells them everything that's happening and has all the evidence to support it, there's really nothing the NCAA can do. So if you're Michigan and you're just sitting there and the NCAA's hit you with all these allegations, it's like, all right, where's the proof? Oh, you don't have any? Well, okay, well, we're going to come and take you to court. And it's just, that's all this is. And really the NCAA's only real weapon is to publicize the allegations. That's it. It's just like a PR battle at that point to make Michigan look bad, which again, I'm not here to argue whether it was cheating or not, because it was. They broke rules like that. You cannot dispute. Whether it really helped them win anything, it probably helped a bit in games. I don't think it's the reason they won a national title, but
13 NFL draft picks probably helped too.
Yeah, and you didn't have them. You didn't have the signs in the playoff, and you still won the college football playoff. So I just think that this is the same boring. Like I've never given a damn about the NCAA or NCAA violations. These stories bore me to tears, and I know we have to talk about it, but I do not give a damn about any of this stuff.
Honestly, like same, and unless it's going to bring about some kind of massive change to the sport.
Well, how could it? What do you mean?
I don't think it will. Like I'm interested in some of these like player empowerment cases because it's like, oh wow, like the transfer portal doesn't exist. Like that is interesting to me. And stuff like that. Like, oh, JUCO doesn't count against eligibility. But like I just think all these teams cheat their ass off, and it's just your turn to get caught. Like if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying in college football. Like I've said that since the Michigan thing happened. And it was like, all right, they'll probably beat it. Maybe they'll get a slap. I think they're probably too big of a brand to actually get serious penalties.
Yeah, I mean, nobody thought that this was going to end up in a postseason ban. We don't do that anymore. We don't do TV bans anymore. And no, we don't do
for good headlines. But I mean, yeah.
Well, it makes for a great.
They give Harbaugh the show cause after he's already left. That's the NCAA in a nutshell. He's gone. He's not coming back. Well, you can't come back. You can't quit. You're fired. I mean,
does college football need enforcement? Like, should enforcement even exist then in college football?
Yeah, somebody has to enforce rules. It's just the NCAA is not the body to do it right now because the NCAA doesn't really have any power. Like the Big Ten and the SEC are telling the NCAA what to do most of the time. The schools control the NCAA. Danny talked about it on Monday's show, his one wish to completely revamp the entire sport. I do think that the one thing we're going to see is that the conferences are just going to have their own governing bodies. The NCAA, I think, is on life support as far as its current iteration. I think it could continue as a party committee organizing tournaments and telling you what music you could play in the stadiums. But other than that, I don't really think it has much of a future.
But in this case, don't you think they have some power over integrity? Like it's not a cheating I mean, I guess it's all what's done is done. So I mean, I guess they could strip wins, and then it's just embarrassing.
Yes, but like
again, that's just PR. Nobody gives a shit if you vacate wins.
Right, but if we're reimagining the future of college football, is there even a need for enforcement of stuff like this?
There's a need for enforcement, but like to Tom's point, it's not the NCAA. It's probably commissioner.
It's going to be like salary cap rules and that kind of stuff. That's going to be what you need to enforce in the future.
Right.
Keeping like programs in check, keeping organizations
making sure everybody's playing by the quote unquote new rules that you have designed in this new look sport, which is going to be changing in the next few years. Once, as Bud mentioned, the real rulings come down and we have to decide what to happen.
I think there's probably some value in the NCAA in terms of being like a legal protection for much like the commissioner of the NFL is. Yeah, exactly.
And the NCAA will live on, as somebody pointed out, for baseball, soccer, lacrosse, all the non-revenue sports. It'll put on those championships. It'll monitor their competition. That's probably what they'll evolve into.
If we are to look at this particular case to try and learn about what enforcement, rule breaking, and punishments might look like in the future, the most impactful punishment in terms of its impact on the team and how swiftly it came about came from the Big Ten League office. And maybe that is what the future is, that if you are really going to talk about punishment, and that was under the integrity, I forgot the exact clause of it, but that was coming from the Big Ten League office, the competition or the competition violation or integrity violation like that is probably what we're looking at in the future, where it's not about these NCAA bylaws that are going to bring about they're not going to make anybody fear anything. You're just going to have to, for better or worse, empower these conference commissioners and empower these league offices to be able to hand down any kind of violations, because this process, this NCAA process, as it was written, as it was constructed, is not having any impact in major college football, at least from what we're seeing right here. All right. Coming up on the other side, the ACC released its 2025 schedule. We got some non-conference games we already knew about, but what about the way the games fall? What are some of the big takeaways? And more on those defensive coordinator searches at Notre Dame, Ohio State, and elsewhere next.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Carousel! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast. For those of you joining us at youtube.com/cover3, you just saw promotion for Champions League coverage on Paramount Plus, a mountain of entertainment, and the place where you can find Match Day Mayhem. Bud, are you fired up about Match Day Mayhem?
Match Day, I am. It's a match for me. Match Day. I'm super excited to watch Match Day on all of our CBS Sports Network channels.
Is that kind of like Boxing Day?
No, see, here's the what it is it's like it is similar to the final
day of the NFL or MLB when all the teams play at the same time.
Yeah, it's 18 matches all starting at the exact same time, 3 p.m. Eastern time here on Wednesday. You've got some teams that only 2 teams are guaranteed their spots for the playoff bracket. Other teams are fighting to either get a bye or get kicked into the elimination round. 9 teams have already been eliminated, so some teams might still be eliminated. So all of those scenarios are all happening all at the same time at the Champions League final match day 8. They're calling it Match Day Mayhem. We're going to be going from game to game to game to game. Here's the implications. Here's the live table. Yeah, see, Danny, it's
I'm into it now.
Yeah, it's got some juice.
Go.
Yeah,
I've got a serious house divided situation going on here. Aston Villa's playing Celtic, who's my Scottish team. So Aston Villa needs the win. So I got to root for Villa today, but I don't really want to root against Celtic.
Is Celtic in the, like, they're going to get kicked down? What are their motivations in terms of where they're at? I was going through the CBSSports.com analysis of sort of like who's safe, who's competing for buys, who's trying to make the playoff round. I wasn't a huge fan of the new Champions League format when it started, but this today, I think makes it all worth it.
Celtic is, I don't think they can get knocked out, but they're firmly in the playoff round. They're not going to be able to get like a first. They're not going to be able to skip to the automatic, but they could if a whole bunch of different things go their way, but it's not likely.
Right. And Danny, because goal differential is some of these tiebreakers.
Ooh, you might see them run it up.
Yeah, that means the radio's going to come down. Be like, okay, guys, we need somebody just scored over here in Madrid. That means we got to keep like putting on the pressure. I'm excited again. 3 p.m. Eastern time. Check it out on Paramount Plus.
I have shared it. My only real problem with the new current Champions League format is it's like when they had the groups, you knew who to watch and who you had to root for and what for to happen. Now with this one giant table, and Bud knows exactly where I'm going with this. Like it's hard to know, like on any Champions League match day, like who I'm supposed to be rooting for and who I'm supposed to be rooting against.
Right. I called them the silly one season rivalries. How you would just like all of a sudden hate I
hope PSG burns in hell.
Yeah, you're just like, this team in Scotland's a real thorn in my ass. You know, like then all of a sudden just trying to get through to the knockout. All right. So the ACC released its full football schedule on Monday evening. Lots of different ways to look at this. I am most curious, Noel boys, how do we feel about Florida State's draw?
I feel pretty good about it. I mean, I know there's some Florida State fans who are like, I don't like the timing of some of this stuff. But, I mean, to me, if you're any good at all, which I don't know they will be, but if you're any good at all, you should be okay against it. You're a dog against Bama, and then you get East Texas A&M, which I believe is Texas A&M Commerce renamed, from best I can tell. Open date, Kent State, which is like the worst team in the FBS. Virginia, which is almost inarguably a bottom 4 team in the league, right? Like maybe at least bottom half.
Now the Calandria is gone for sure.
Well, right, exactly. On a Friday night, so you get an extra day of rest to host Miami. Then you host Pitt, and then you're at Stanford, and you get a bye week after Stanford. Then you get Wake Forest before you go to Clemson. I mean, you're a dog there. You're a dog to Miami. You're a dog to Bama. You host Virginia Tech, which I don't think they're going in the right direction based on how badly they got picked over in the transfer portal. And then, like, you're at Raleigh on a Friday night. That's going to be a hornet's nest, but you do get the extra day of rest before you go to Gainesville. So, I think it's a pretty, like, if they have their act together, they should bounce back and make a bowl game. I don't have like a lot more hopes than that, but
there
been I see 12-0.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I do Heisman season loading.
Yeah, that's right. I'm kind of like Bud though. I think 7.5 is probably going to be the number. Do you think it'll be lower?
I would have it lower. Yeah,
You would have it lower.
I would. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm just like Castellanos is just not, to me, he's just not good. He's not terrible, but just like, there's a reason they wanted to bench him at Boston College, I think. And part of that was because he was hurt. Like they get Deuce Robinson, fine. Like he's going to be your one. He was not a featured guy for USC. I know they're happy about him in Tallahassee. Maybe he'll explode. Obviously, he has some connections to FSU. Squirrel White. I'm very, very curious if they get like the actual healthy version of Squirrel White or like the version that we saw Tennessee elect not to, keep this offseason. So they're really excited about that. I'm not personally real excited about that. But then again, I think the 4 offensive linemen that they got are pretty high floor. So that, I think they can reach a bowl game. I don't have a lot of hope they're going to go 10-2 or anything like that. No.
Here's my schedule-related question. How do you feel about the depth of this team? Because there have been seasons where the Florida State season competitively might be wrapped up on like November 4th, depending on how good Florida is and if you have an FCS game before that Florida game and who your final ACC opponents are. And to have the Clemson game, the Virginia Tech game, road at NC State on a Friday night, as you mentioned, and then Florida at the end of the season, this is a Seminoles team that now will be challenged in November to be playing some of their best ball because, obviously I would not put any of those opponents ahead of Alabama in terms of maybe Clemson in terms of ranking the opponents in terms of difficulty, but some of the maybe top 6 most difficult games, top 6 or top 7 most difficult games are all going to be coming at the end of the year. This is going to be a Florida State team that needs to be healthy at the end of the year and probably either needs injury luck or needs to feel good about its depth.
Yeah, I don't feel great about the depth. I'm not really sure which team out there does feel great about their depth, to be honest. With the portal making it more difficult, I think, to hold on to proven players, almost every team's depth is going to be very much like we'll see. Now, they don't have quite as talented depth as some guys do in terms of like physical talent, but it's certainly more than others. I'm not sympathetic to these like, oh, this is a real hard finish. When Florida month of November is Georgia at Kentucky at Ole Miss, host Tennessee, FSU. Like, come on, 2 hours east. Like that's a real schedule. This ain't hard. I'm not saying it's super easy, but like this is not in like a top 25 schedule for me. So I'm just like, if you're any good, you should win ball games. If you're not, get a new staff in there.
I think there's a greater chance for 10 wins than 6.
Oh, I'll take all that action you want to give. Like every bit of it.
Mikey, log it.
8 wins.
Log it, Mikey.
End up at. Let's go. No on, no crime. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a show done up there before the Alabama game.
Yeah, we need to spin all the positivity that's possible.
Yes.
I think like the one thing that stood out to me with the schedules is like there's that weird bye structure where there's like 3 teams that are on bye game and then immediately on a bye again, like right in the middle of the season. If I'm going to have 2 byes, I would rather they be spread out than within a 3-week span.
Yeah.
Unless
you getting a lot of favors done for if you sue the conference.
Yeah. I mean, did you see who some of the opponents are that are getting the bye treatment?
I know Miami's got it like with what was it Florida State or Clemson?
So teams that are the opponent for some of these bye situations, include Miami getting bye, Florida State bye, North Carolina getting bye, Clemson bye. I mean, these are like a week off and a week on the other side, leading up to a couple of arguably the biggest games that are on the entire, ACC football schedule. So you could look at that as favorable treatment being handed out one way or the other.
But would you want the buys around those games? I'd rather have the buy before or after.
Instead of both?
Yeah. Like, because now I've got to finish my season with what, 6 straight games?
Yeah.
So great. I got extra rest to play Clemson, and now I'm going to be dead when I'm playing Virginia at the end of the year, and I'm going to get an upset loss.
Yeah. Part of it, too, I think, is related to the West Coast travel. I think a lot of teams want to buy after they hit the West Coast and come back.
Right.
Especially because that's going to be a late as hell game. Like I guarantee you. So these Friday night games that they're putting on the West Coast, okay? Where are we at here? So like UNC at Cal. What do you want to bet? That's like a super late kick on a Friday, right?
Will that affect their
It says-
ability to get to the playoff? We got to ask Bill C.
FSU at Stanford, right? Exactly. I think you'll find a pattern where a lot of these teams that go West Coast, especially if it's that like Saturday night West Coast game. Remember Miami Cal, like how late that was?
Yeah.
I think they're going to try to do it. Otherwise, I mean, you're finishing up. Like, what time do you think you actually get on the plane Pacific time?
It's an all-nighter.
I would wait till the morning, honestly.
And then you're landing back in Miami or Raleigh at
7 a.m.,
Yeah.
8 a.m.
yeah.
It's
exactly.
a red eye.
Like that kind of jacks up your week.
Because you're going to give them all Sunday off, like maybe Sunday night meetings, maybe, right?
Well,
You probably have treatment like Sunday evening, I would say, or Sunday like after lunch.
hold on, let's say who's Florida State playing on the West Coast this year?
Stanford.
Stanford. Oh, that game's going to be in the afternoon, time slot champs. So it's going to be like 6 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock Pacific.
Yeah, they want a prime window for that.
Yeah, they don't want to put that on after dark. That's for the loser schools.
Had a friend in the tailgate mention, who did Syracuse piss off? Syracuse draws in with Notre Dame this year. They also have Tennessee signed up in the non-con. You did that to yourself.
Yeah.
Their conference schedule is Clemson, Duke, SMU, Pitt, Georgia Tech, UNC, Miami, and Boston College. So you are, when you're getting there with Pitt, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Miami, that all in a row is very, very difficult. Clemson front loaded at the beginning of the season, to which I say, who did you piss off? Nobody. This is called the bill is due. Syracuse had undoubtedly the easiest conference draw in the 2024 season, and Fran Brown capitalized on it, and congratulations to him, because that's what you got to do when you get the easy draw, is you cash in with a whole lot of wins. He did it. He got to the bowl game. He won the bowl game, but now the bill is due. All those opponents, I mean, granted, Miami was on there last year too. A lot of those opponents that you were able to avoid now rotate back on. That's kind of the way that this works with this massive
Still,
conference.
that road schedule is brutal.
I want you guys to
go ahead.
Sorry, Tom.
I was just gonna say, you get Tennessee neutral, then you're at Clemson, playoff team. You're at SMU, playoff team. You're at Georgia Tech. You're at Miami, and then you're at Notre Dame. Like, reach the title. It's like the road schedule's freaking nuts for them.
I want you guys to tell me though, of their conference opponents, who do you think is better than they were last year? Okay, just snap call it. Clemson?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so too. Duke?
No.
Maybe.
I think they could be a better team, but a worse record.
I think their quality, I don't think their quality will take a step back.
Yeah, but I think their win total definitely will.
Sure.
SMU?
I don't think they make the playoff again, so worse.
I think everybody who made all conference is gone, right?
Yeah.
Or damn near.
But Jennings is back.
He's back.
But he didn't make all conference, right?
Right.
Also, he might be mentally broken after those pick sixes.
He'll be fine.
I think SMU is going to be equivalent on the field. Again, the record might not be as good. That's not an easy out.
Like Pitt is probably
no clue.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to tell my grandchildren about that Pitt team that started 7-0 and then crashed with 6 straight losses.
I think Tech is inarguably worse. Georgia Tech, but I'm open to arguments otherwise.
I don't think that.
Well, how many top 10 teams are on their schedule? Because they will win all those games.
Okay.
Yeah, that's facts.
No, I
Carolina is. We think Carolina's better because of the coaching upgrade and the new.
Same.
Kind of same.
No, I think it's the same team.
Miami.
Bill Connolly's got him in the playoffs, by the way. Did you see that?
I did see that. That schedule is friendly.
Yeah, Bill loves Bill. Bill's
Miami?
stick together. I think Miami will be. I think they'll be better defensively. I don't know if they'll be as explosive offensively. So
I do
think
know
you're
that.
gonna
I don't
see-
think they'll be
yeah.
as explosive offensively.
Yeah, I think you'll see it kind of balance out a little more. I think they'll still be just as good. They just won't be as chaotic.
Their TikTok account is going to explode, though.
Yes,
bro.
Thank goodness TikTok got saved for the Miami football team.
That's exactly.
The Irish, I would
double
say,
date this past weekend.
slightly worse with the Irish.
I wouldn't say a dramatic drop
I
off.
gotta see the QB.
Fair.
We're still bringing
and
in
then
a
Boston,
lot
A lot
back.
of offensive line. There's still, this is what the whole thing is like with the favorites, the preseason favorites to win the Natty next year. There's still a lot of these, especially the teams that finished in the top 4 and the top 10, that still have to do some tweaking to their rosters. You know, Notre Dame just lost. How many offensive linemen did they just lose?
Yeah, it's like we've still got a whole spring portal to go through.
Do you think it'll be robust? Like, do you think it'll bring about some
I
shifting?
think it'll bring about some QB. I think it'll shake some QB leaves loose. Yeah. Some guys may be competing for jobs who realize that they aren't going to get the job.
Well, what about for like places like offensive line? I mean,
No,
that's just where
I
you
think
just got to
that's-
go to Tampa City. I mean,
Any offensive lineman that's entering in the spring is typically moving down.
I was thinking about big, deep-pocketed program, takes a spring practice injury, and now all of a sudden the price has gone up for a Jag plus offensive lineman.
Maybe, but I don't know. That's tough, especially after you've already gone through spring practice to then go get an offensive lineman.
And
who
think
won't
that
have
that's
spring
going to
to work
just
with you.
gel. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point. It is interesting. You talk about Notre Dame. This is a year where you look to see who got Notre Dame on the schedule, who did not get Notre Dame on the schedule, because when it comes to any kind of at-large bid, if the ACC is going to get a second team into the college football playoff the way that they did in the first year of the expanded format, then that is a way to make your non-conference schedule much more difficult. The Clemson Tigers do not have Notre Dame on the schedule. Florida State doesn't have Notre Dame, but you got Bama, and as well as, of course, your game against Florida, like Clemson has South Carolina. The Louisville Cardinals do not have Notre Dame on the schedule as well, but Miami does. Let's see, who were some other notable potential contenders that might be on there? Virginia Tech dodges them. Yeah, this is, Notre Dame's always going to play that 5-game ACC schedule, more or less. So this year, with Notre Dame coming off of a national runner-up finish, and with the pieces that they are bringing back, certainly something to keep an eye on when it comes to the ACC schedule. Any other? Well, yeah, go ahead.
What does Notre Dame's contract agreement with the ACC look like?
Like, when does it expire?
Yeah.
2036.
And how, lock, stock, and barrel is that?
It is fragmented based on the involved, it does not face the same financial penalties that a full member does, but it is calculated on the same sort of fractional differences based on their membership.
I only asked
payouts and stuff, essentially.
I read an article in The Athletic the other day. Scott Doderman, who covers the Big Ten for them, it was one of his bold predictions was that Notre Dame is going to enter into an agreement with the Big Ten, which is like the one that they have with the ACC, and pretty much abandon their ACC scheduling and do the same thing with the Big Ten. And it was just a very kind of odd, out of nowhere specific kind of prediction, whereas it's like, is that just something he cooked up in his own brain, or is that something he's heard?
It was under bold predictions?
Yes.
Like Mandel
Sometimes I'll do a bold prediction where I've actually got a little birdie in my ear whispering something about a possibility, and then I'll use it as a bold prediction to make myself look like a genius. I'm trying to figure out if that's what's going on there.
Mandel had Fickles fired and goes back to Cincinnati after Satterfield gets fired, for instance.
Yeah.
That level bold.
Yeah.
Wait.
Some of them were just whatever, but that one I read that and I was like, that one kind of just raised an eyebrow.
Their TV deal, I was looking at the length of it. So how long is their contract with the ACC?
It's through 2036. When they
So it is the same as the TV deal with the ACC.
The
network.
grant of rights that everybody's all up in arms about was tied to Notre Dame's commitment in 2016.
But does Notre Dame, can Notre Dame, quote unquote, break the grant of rights? Are they part of that?
No, that their grant of rights, that the amount that they would be having to pay back to the ACC every year is less, because the amount of money that they get from the ACC is less than other members. So that huge number that a Florida State or a Clemson, has always been discussing about what it would take or what it would be in court and all those things to buy your rights back, the number that Notre Dame would be paying to the ACC would be equivalent to what they get from the ACC between now and 2036.
Because
Notre Dame plays 5 games, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
is there anything preventing them from signing some sort of concurrent agreement with the Big Ten of maybe a 3 or 4 game agreement every year?
No. But my like the other thing
I'm asking because like we're discussing this like with the implication that they have to break the ACC agreement, and there may be something in there with the Irish ACC agreement that says you cannot also be with that. But I mean, I wonder if you can.
I mean, it's late January. I'm just recklessly speculating. But I also think part of it too that you have to keep in mind, who's Notre Dame's TV deal with?
NBC.
Is NBC in bed with the SEC or ACC?
They are not.
Who are they in bed with?
That would be the Big Ten.
Exactly.
Great coverage on Saturday nights. Always a privilege to pass the baton.
And who was kind of complaining about their primetime slate of games that they were getting in their new Big Ten deal?
Is Notre Dame more open-minded? Well,
Notre Dame won't be primetime. I'm just saying, you add Notre Dame to the inventory, and suddenly NBC's
you don't have to put Ohio State at noon every day.
Starts looking a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, Ohio State wants that for sure. That's a good point by Danny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Ohio State wants to play every game at noon.
Mm-mm.
Ohio State. Interesting.
Ohio State and Notre Dame in prime time on NBC.
The way the contract works, as I understand it, is if Notre Dame joins a conference, contractually it should be the ACC. And if Notre Dame is going to join a conference that is not the ACC, they would need to break it in the same way that an existing ACC member would, though the penalty would not quite be the same. Who knows? Maybe a college
just get $20 million.
I was going to say maybe a college football playoff run has inspired some creative thinking in South Bend. But to me, the reason why I say no to Scott's bold prediction, not that it's a poor thing to write, but just everything we got from Notre Dame all throughout the playoff run was we love being independent. Oh
yeah, I don't think they're going to join a league. I'm just wondering if they're going to rejigger their scheduling agreements.
Maybe. Or it's a great way to boost your win count. I mean, who would you rather play? I
would rather play my rivals.
That's true. Okay. Anything else from the ACC schedule as a whole that stood out?
Who had the best release? I saw Pitt's was pretty good. The pizza, they did the pizza toppings. They had crab leg pizza. It was like low hanging fruit, but done.
Yeah,
they had the tree hugger, which was like avocado, and they were real pizzas that they made for Stanford. That was pretty good. They had a very creative release.
Right. It wasn't, it wasn't like when the Tennessee Titans first blew our minds with the first like on Broadway, interview these people, tell us what the logo is. But, every social media team took a stab at it, Yep.
So, which I like. I appreciate the effort.
I appreciated I appreciated that. I did not appreciate the never mind.
No. What did you not appreciate?
Well, it was in the middle of Duke State. Like you have in Cameron.
They were just like puking that schedule up all over the court.
I was going to say, and Malawatch is throwing up on the court, and students
people are passing out.
People are passing out. They got norovirus rolling through Kville right now. I mean, it was scenes, and you're expecting me to start also pivoting over. It was hard. Hard
NC
to balance.
State's collapsing in the second half.
I was surprised to be getting like texts at like 9 p.m. from Kevin Clark about Miami's schedule. And I was like, wait, the ACC's releasing its schedule now? What?
Did Miami get did they get screwed, or is he happy with it? Or
he's not unhappy. He's not happy. He's just like, here's our schedule. I'm thinking we're gonna win every single one of these games. I don't know if you understand this, but Kevin is very high on Miami. Thinks they're gonna win all the time.
My Miami note is that finishing with 7 consecutive games is not quite the 8 game in a row, that we look at in terms of being a little bit of a scheduling quirk, but that is one of the larger runs that we have in the ACC and that we see in major college football of getting both of those buys early in the season. Though granted, they are, as we mentioned earlier, after Florida, then before Florida State, then on the other side of Florida State to get ready for Louisville. Like there will be a challenge for Mario Cristobal and that coaching staff after going through that sort of month, Florida off, Florida State off, Louisville, to then be able to make sure that you are ramped up and ready for 7 games in a row to complete a campaign that, if it does not end with playing for an ACC championship, will be a disappointment based on what you've done to invest in this roster, from the recruiting trail, from the transfer portal, with Carson Beck, with the staff changes that you've made. If Miami's not playing for an ACC title in early December, I think it's a disappointing season. So those games where they are going to be favored at the end of the year are all going to come one after the other. It will be the age-old rivalry of Miami versus meeting expectations. Find out November 2025.
Do you think North Carolina gets a ratings bump the way Colorado did with Prime?
100%. I think when they moved TCU to Monday night, that was
ESPN's expecting it, but do you think it'll be
not to the same degree?
Right.
Because Deion's not the showman and the promoter.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry,
Deion wanted it.
Yeah.
Does Belichick care?
Yeah, Belichick's not going to be out there like doing what Deion was doing.
He's not going to be Deion, but he has been doing more media. I think he kind of gets the recruiting aspect of, and I think that's probably what he's relying on Saban for. I mean, he's done McAfee a couple times. His Lombardi does it almost every day, just trying to get the word out. So
I think that it will run very hot until Clemson, and then we'll see. Like if Dabo puts them in a body bag, then all of a sudden things will cool off very, very, like Oregon, like when Dan Lanning just blasted Colorado out of the water, things cooled off significantly. I think that it will start hot. They will try to squeeze as much of the publicity juice as possible early in the season when everybody's undefeated. And
we'll find out when they play UCF and Scott Frost, like what time is that game? Do they put a UNC UCF game in a great window? Like that'll be interesting to see if ESPN rolls that out.
I could see it.
Yeah.
Great window could mean noon on ABC.
3:30 on ABC. I think it's slightly better.
Well, 3:30 on ABC is the SEC.
That'll be an
spot.
SEC.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, so then are you going to go to a 7:30?
That'll be Alabama versus Mercer.
ESPN. I could see it. ESPN 7:00.
Yeah, I could see that too. We'll see. I hope
they're on ACC Network with that great, wonderful crew.
Oh, well, listen, you better be singing praises for West Durham.
Yeah, I'm saying I want West Durham calling North Carolina games.
Right. Listen. Wood boy. That's the way that you want it. All right. Coming up on the other side, a look at the coaching carousel where things are a-moving at the assistant level and so much more. Next.
I feel home when I see the faces that remember my own. When I'm with my friends, I feel home.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, the head coaching movement, especially with some of these NFL jobs being solidified, sure seems like it has steadied, but we still got some important assistant positions to fill. Let's jump on the coaching carousel. Reporting started over the weekend on Jim Knowles' move from Ohio State to Penn State. Monday morning, right before we went live, it was official in a press release. Since then, we've had team meetings with the Nittany Lions and a lot more. Bud, what do you feel like we're continuing to learn about this move and sort of maybe what it means for Jim, Penn State, and especially for Ohio State moving forward?
Yeah, so I think there's probably a couple things here. One, as Cody Alexander pointed out on Twitter, like the narrative of, hey, like Ryan Day got more involved in the defense following the Oregon game. Does that involvement by Ryan Day basically consist of telling him, hey, you know what, Larry Johnson, we're going to run Jim Knowles' defense. We'll keep a little bit of what you want to do. Like we're going to continue to play a 4-man front, but it's going to be a reduced front. So it's a little more similar to what they run or what they ran at Oklahoma State. And we're kind of done with this stuff you want to do. We're actually going to let Jim run his defense like he's wanted to run for a good long while now. And all of the coverage stuff after the Oregon game looked very similar to what they ran at Oklahoma State. So if there was a little like kind of disgruntled stuff there between Knowles and Ohio State. I fully understand that. I mean, it's year 3 and you're still trying to argue that you want to be able to run your defense the way you want to run it. But I also think there's an interesting recruiting thing going on here that, like, for image purposes, I think Penn State probably, like, for a long time, they had a reputation of being cheap with their staff, right? Because of, like, Paterno back in the day, I mean, was making, like, you know, a third or a quarter of what some of the real like high paid guys like what Spurrier was making, you know, back in the day. So I think they have improved that a good bit, but this is kind of a message of like, hey, we're serious. Hey, this is not the old Sandy Barber AD. The new AD actually cares about this stuff quite a bit. But also from a recruiting standpoint, like, I mean, there are like, so Knowles is an alum of St. Joe's Prep, I believe, which is a pretty powerful school. And Ohio State has Penn State has almost exclusively whiffed on that school recently. Now, I think there's a lot of different reasons for that. I don't think it's entirely like St. Joe's hates Penn State, but there have been instances of Penn State like offering kids and then not taking them. Now, that happens all over the place. And like you always hear this, oh, like this local school doesn't like this, you know, local college. It's hard because like they want their kids offered super early, but then if those kids don't continue to grow and pan out, then like you kind of got to rescind the offer. Otherwise, like, what are you doing? Like if a kid can't play for you, the kid can't play for you. You're going to miss with some of your evaluations. It's kind of the nature of offering early. But I wonder if Knowles getting hired there will help them recruit that school and then specifically Philadelphia a little bit more because there have been some kids who got away from them, and now we'll see.
Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison Jr. are both St. Joe's Preps guys.
Correct.
And McCord's far better. I mean, I do think like what the point you hit on is, to me, it's like Penn State's been a big boy program, but they haven't behaved like a big boy program as far as what you need to do in the current landscape. And I do like the column I wrote the other day, it's just basically built around that point. Like this is Penn State finally saying, all right, this is what we need to do. Like we need to, if we're going to beat Ohio State, we need to start behaving like Ohio State. If we're going to beat these teams, we need to start being them. So I just feel like, yeah, it's a statement of intent for Penn State. It's huge. I mean, I don't think when you look at it, like as far as how the results are going to be on the field, I don't think defensively Penn State's going to be like much better because they've already been very good defensively. I just
and
think
you lose Carter.
Yeah. I just think it's more symbolic of what they're trying to do now. And also, there's also another aspect to this. I think James has had to keep replacing his defensive coordinator because his defensive coordinator keeps leaving for a new job, whether it's a head coach or it's Tom Allen going to Clemson because, you know, he just found it out. Jim Knowles does not really seem all that interested in being a head coach. Maybe Jim Knowles is a guy he can like, you know what? Not only am I getting a great defensive coordinator, but I'm getting a guy who's going to stick around for a few years so I don't have to be doing this crap again next offseason.
Unless his fiance moves somewhere.
Unless he's got, I was gonna quote a ludicrous song that I'm not sure we could say on air, but it seems like from the rumors I've been hearing the last few weeks, that man has a girlfriend in every city. Like it's just
like different area codes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just like there was all like message boards were always like, well, I hear he's got his girlfriend wants to live here, or his girlfriend does live here. It's like, remember when with Indiana basketball, it's like Brad Stevens' wife was always seen around Bloomington shopping for houses. It's one of those types of things.
Yeah.
Anything else? What about for Notre Dame? I know that Chris Ash, you know, the former Ohio State defensive coordinator, Rutgers head coach, is a name that has circulated as the potential target for Notre Dame. I got any sort of thoughts if it does end up moving in that direction?
A couple. Yeah. One, I am wondering if it's like, are some of these big coaches in how they treat the quarterback position and how they treat some of these coordinator hires, like unwilling to accept risk, but also unwilling to accept the upside of potentially promoted from within? Like you have to have somebody who's called it before at a high level. Hey, like we're Ohio State, we're Notre Dame, we're too big to have somebody learn on the job. Which I don't think Notre Dame totally fits this bucket because it appears that like maybe they will go in-house for the quarterback. And obviously they have a head coach who very much.
I was going to say, like, by promoting Marcus Freeman to head coach is not exactly the been there, done that.
Correct.
They also didn't they have Mickens as potentially like doing the defense. So elevating from within, but then bringing in Ash to be a defensive coordinator. I saw that. potentially.
Yeah,
So then you kind of bring in some experience with the in-house, you know.
Do you think? Go ahead, finish your point.
Like if Chris Ash can call it, and you like the guy, and you believe like, hey, he was a very bad fit with that style at Rutgers. Like trying to be Urban Meyer at Rutgers is probably not going to work. And the guy is a little very just kind of direct in how he approaches people. I guess would be a way to say that, just from things we heard at Rutgers. That doesn't mean he's a bad guy, right? Like I don't think there was ever any allegations of bad stuff, unless I just missed it. But I mean, if you like his defensive acumen, maybe having a situation, kind of a 1A, 1B is not the worst. And you still have Freeman, who's going to be heavily involved in the defense, I would assume.
My one, like to your point about coaches being afraid to maybe promote from within, do you think that like salary inflation plays a role in that? Like we just saw, like Knowles is getting $3 million a year with the possibility of getting $4 million.
Yeah,
Salaries for these jobs are all
bonuses-
going up. So do you want to, like, if you're Notre Dame, you're clearly a big boy, so you're going to be paying big boy prices for your coaches. Do you want to promote like your linebacker coach and then have to give him $3 million right away, or else people are going to say you're cheap? So it's kind of like, it might be like a situation we've seen with MAC coaches and coaches from G5 schools, where they used to be the guys that the Power 4 schools hired to take over, but now the salaries are so different that you just don't see that happening anymore, because you don't want to give the guy making $500,000 at Toledo suddenly give him $5 million a year, give him a 1,000% raise. So do you think that's playing a part in it?
I mean, but we do see these guys, like when they do promote from within, they don't necessarily like go and give them an insane salary just to be like, hey, that's just what we're supposed to do, right? Or at least not right off the bat. I don't like some of these internal hires don't really have the leverage to demand that either.
There was what I thought was a very interesting point made by Pete Sampson, covers Notre Dame for The Athletic. He said that the Chris Ash hire fits a mold very similar to Al Golden. That Chris Ash, like Al Golden, was a college head coach at the power conference level. It did not work out. He is, goes to an NFL coaching staff and ends up, sort of working as an NFL assistant. Good reviews right there. You pull him out from the NFL ranks. You bring him in to a Notre Dame program that, is continuing to try to operate at that, semi-pro kind of level, just with the business approach to it, the way they're able to retain talent, the level of talent that is on that roster, that when you lose Al Golden to the Cincinnati Bengals, bringing in Chris Ash is very much trying to get, even though they're different individuals with different styles and quirks along the way, the experience that you are bringing to the coaching room and the experience you're able to provide to the defense is somewhat in line. And so that's when the word sensible seems to pop into my head. Where it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I can see how after the success of Al Golden, you see Chris Ash and you've got a type, and it seems like that could fill that type. Any other assistant coaching carousel movement of note before we get out of here?
I saw Wisconsin just hired Scott Power to be their assistant defensive backs coach, and I just want to say Scott Power is a cool name, and I kind of wish Power was my last name, because it'd be fun to just be like Tom Power.
Did you see Jackson Dart has a little brother?
Diesel
Dart?
Yeah.
Diesel
I'm
Dart.
so glad we got to tell you this for the first time together.
Diesel Dart.
Does he
is his
play
name.
football?
Yes. He
Yes.
is a class of 27 athlete.
Oh, I want him.
I know.
I need
like
Diesel
more
Dart to be
puppy.
good.
You
That feels
better-
very Utah to me.
Yeah, it
Jackson
does.
and Diesel.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Oh, man.
Better be good.
He got an offer from Ole Miss in the last couple of days, which is
Oh, he
Oh,
did. He
hell
already
yeah.
got an offer.
Yeah.
I
Sean
didn't see it.
Lewis offered too. San Diego State.
Oh, man.
Diesel.
44 tackles and interception. Okay.
This guy doesn't
23
run
23 catches,
unleaded.
351.
I mean, Diesel Dart it might be Travis Hunter. We might need to play him on both sides of the ball. we need as much Diesel Dart as possible on that. What's our snap count? Where's the participation report?
I
let's
need to
break
see
all
the
the
eye
records.
black. I need to see the eye black Diesel Dart's wearing.
Oh, it's
I just
actually
want,
just
like,
unleaded
big
fuel.
ass smears on his, looking like he's just covered in diesel fuel.
Yeah, no, we're
And he lights it on fire.
So like if Lane Kiffin like gets him and then they kind of like limit the snap count in some of these lesser games, like do we call it eco diesel or like what are we?
That's great.
See, we
So
need
much
Diesel
potential
Dart.
for him.
We need
We
Diesel
need
Dart.
See, the off season's fun. Like this is this is the kind of jokes we don't have time for. Like when it's so formulaic during the season.
Yeah. Any other assistant carousel movement? I was thinking, not to have a meeting right here on the show, but let's wait until after, because we're gonna have National Signing Day, the spring one. It's February 5th. It's coming up very soon.
Spring.
Not spring, the February National Signing Day. Then after February's National Signing Day, there is another wave of assistant movement. We know it. It happens every single season. Then things kind of settle as teams really prepare for spring practice. We'll do a full assistant coaching carousel recap once we get this next wave of movement done. Biggest changes, who got better, who lost somebody good, like all those sort of big picture stuff, because sometimes as we're just hitting the carousel bit by bit, it's hard to get the big context. So we will be waiting until after that next post-signing day wave of movement in February before we really do a full recap of all the assistant movement. But anything else recently that we haven't gotten a chance to hit on that stands out?
I thought Matt Lubick going back to Kansas from Nevada is pretty big. He had I had heard nothing but good things about him before he left, after Kotelnicki left, and like that feels kind of like Jason Beck to an eye to me, like a guy who definitely had a big hand in the offense coming back, and Lance Leipold recognizing like, hey, this guy's pretty important to what we do.
I mean, that Kansas staff is important. It's an important part of how Kansas is going to be able to keep pace there in the Big 12.
And Jalen Daniels is back too.
Yep.
Another year.
Jalen Daniels is back, and Jalen Daniels is back.
That's something to keep an eye on.
Always something to keep an eye on. He once had an Apple Watch on a necklace that had his highlights on it. Now I'd like to see his highlights on like a heating pad that can just be applied to that lower back under his.
That was peak Jalen Daniels when he showed up at Big 12 Media Day with the watch. That was all iced out as well.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With the highlights playing.
All right. Thursdays here on the Cover 3 podcast, this time of year, it is our time to continue our conversation with you. It's time for you to get in on the big old bag of mail. Lots of different ways to get to us because we want to make sure that we're available to you. You can jump in the tailgate early. As soon as the link goes live, turn on the notifications on YouTube, drop your questions in the tailgate. We'll grab a couple for the start of the show. If you've gone and left us a 5-star review and put your question in there, we might tackle that as well. You can reach out to us individually. I know that we're able to get some really good mailbag questions from that as well. So it is our time to keep this thing going, sharing our love of college football on Thursdays with the big old bag of mail. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow him at Danny Kanell. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
I'm sorry to all my haters. You are stuck with me for another 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
Go, Tom.